fair trade producers. The results, well, there's the growth record. These are the sales of fair trade products in developed markets. And you can see that that growth rate has been continuous over a number of years. And I'm glad to say that notwithstanding the crisis, the growth has maintained the rate that we've had. So we also have a certification process for chain of custody, so that we can say that when the product leaves the farm, it finds its way to the consumer, and the consumer there, down here, you can't quite see, but you can see down here on the bottom left, when it says fair trade on the pack, it is fair trade in the pack. And so consumers can make their vote when they go to make their daily purchases. And every vote a consumer makes is a vote for the world that they want to see. Now, consumer expectations. What are the drivers for ethical standards? And this is one of the interesting things about where ethical standards have come from and why they're important. This is a piece of research by GlobeScan. What it shows is expectations. The top line are consumers' expectations of companies with regard to corporate social responsibility. The bottom line is their perceptions of performance. And you can see that huge gap there between expectations on the one hand and performance on the other. That is a trust deficit. And that is only one of the reasons why third-party ethical standards like fair trade and others are so important, because they're helping to bridge that trust gap. We had the vote just now about who would pay more. Now, the percentages in this audience are slightly different. But when we did this survey, 40% of people said they would not pay more, but 60% of people said they were willing to pay between 5 and 20% more for ethically traded products. So that's the consumer side of things. Now, I've also indicated that we came from the alternative trade movement. Now, what's really interesting for me right now, though, is the way in which bigger companies, bigger brands are coming through and supporting fair trade, because there is a coincidence of their values as businesses and their agenda in terms of sustainability. And to move slightly off topic for a moment, we were chatting over lunch about the fact that some of the big sustainability issues, like climate, like water stress, like soil erosion, like peak oil, like energy security and food security, these are issues that seem to be a little bit absent from the discussion. But they're issues that are not absent from the discussions in the boardrooms of biggest businesses on the planet. Starbucks, Cadbury, Nestle, and Ben & Jerry's, 4 companies that have made a huge commitment. You cannot buy a cup of espresso or any espresso product in Europe from Starbucks unless it is fair trade certified. That's the level of commitment. It's similar across Cadbury and so on. And you can see why. They recognize their agricultural supply chains are at risk unless they invest in them. And that's the interesting thing, the coincidence of a business agenda of a long-term sustainable agricultural supply chain, the issues to do with sustainability and their values and consumer values coming together to drive this change. Now, back to the alternative trade movement. This is an example of fair trade producers in Kerala, in southwest India. This is Fair Trade Alliance Kerala. They're a small cooperative grown from 2,000 members to now 4,000 members. They've been specializing in cashew nuts for some time, but through fair trade have been able to expand into other products. They've invested in agronomy, in biodiversity, and improving the crop yields that they can get. They've invested in microcredit. They've invested in education facilities. They've invested in solar so that they've got decent energy supplies. And more than that, and this is the real innovation, we heard yesterday that there are now trade barriers between Africa and India in cashew nuts. Now, this group has come together with its colleagues in Mozambique, so we have India, Mozambique, Malawi, we have Bolivia, Brazil, El Salvador, nut producers that have collaborated with an alternative trader called Equal Exchange, or Twin Trading, to come together to create liberation. Producers own 42% of this company, and that means that they're working together and making a bigger business, even out of Kerala. So, those are the propositions. That's how fair trade works. A couple of final thoughts. Multilateral standards can work. Partnerships can work. Values can work. And if we do this thing together, we do have a chance to come together and achieve the kind of things that the World Business Council for Sustainable Development called for in its 2050 report that Patricia Francis referred to, double yields and double quality by 2050. That's the aim. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. I mean, I think it's a very interesting point about bringing in not just volume and value, but values itself. And I think this is a great segue into having Paula present to us about her experiences of working with an organization that is famous for the values it presents in terms of the products it makes. So, Paula, over to you.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be here today, and I'd like to thank the ITC for inviting me to speak. During my brief presentations, my 8 minutes, I'd like to draw mainly on my passion for betterment, as Frederic mentioned, and my experience with BRAC, with international brands and retailers around the world, and also some experience that I've been having this year with the British government's RAGS Challenge Fund. So let's kick off with BRAC. Founded in 1972, BRAC is dedicated to alleviating poverty by empowering the poor to bring about change in their own lives. As one of the world's largest development organizations, 80% of BRAC's income is generated through their own profit-for-purpose businesses, trading in agriculture, dairy, and fair trade handicrafts, where each producer is a beneficiary of their multifaceted community development programs. BRAC's businesses are all established around the principles of social entrepreneurship and are supported by their microfinance program. Since establishment, this program has dispersed over $7 billion to 7 million borrowers across Bangladesh. However, simply providing a loan is not good enough as far as BRAC is concerned. So, with financial support comes skills training and access to market. With more than 120,000 employees, most of whom are women, and an annual turnover of $535 billion, BRAC's commercial success is obvious. However, for the real measure of BRAC and its work is its achievement in the positive impact that it has on the 110 million people its development work reaches every day, and not the profit that its businesses make. Established in 1978, Arong is one of BRAC's flagship social enterprises. Through its 10 local retail outlets, it is dedicated to creating economic opportunity for the disadvantaged and supports 65,000 artisans across Bangladesh. 40,000 of these artisans are employed directly by Arong, and the remainder is employed through independent cooperative groups and traditional family-based structures. Potters, jewellers, weavers, sewers, wood carvers, metal and leather workers across Bangladesh come to Arong for marketing and support services. The Arong brand has a strong national identity and is considered Bangladesh's leading fashion label, where local and expat customers are proud to shop. For Arong, providing stable employment and supporting strong community are critical to their definition of success. On the other hand, their retail success revolves around delivering quality, authentic design, and supporting traditional Bengali handicraft skills. Operating in an ethical way is not merely a marketing tool for BRAC and Arong, it is their lifeblood. However, becoming a WFTO member 5 years ago has solidified their fair trade credentials. Only 6% of Arong's sales are generated through export, and by purchasing all of their raw materials and selling most of their finished product within Bangladesh, Arong's environmental footprint is minimal. Their increase in turnover has averaged 40% every year since 2005. However, as the financial crisis hit in 2009, that growth reduced to 12%. But this reduction was mainly met with relief, giving Arong the opportunity to catch its breath after many years of rapid growth.